In the first 5 episodes, we've been pretty concentrated on expanding our initial city. We've still got quite a lot of work to do to completely finish that, but for now, I'd like to take a quick trip out to the corner of the map here. We're going to be taking this flat area and transforming it into a small farming town. This should provide more high-demand industrial jobs, as well as begin to expand the footprint of our region off into the corners of the map. This will give us a better sense of scale and allow us to gauge how far we want the city to expand. That way we can allow for a reasonable amount of space between our cities and more rural areas. With the size of a map in City Skylines, we have to shrink our scale down, so while this town may not be that far away in terms of real-life scale, I want it to feel like it's far away. We're starting out here as always with a road layout. I just wanted to figure out a rough sense of how big this town was going to be and map out the structure of the town in my head via the roads. We're going to have a large main street which is going to connect right up to the highway. Then I have some 2-lane roads going out in both directions with some alleyways as local roads to break up the blocks into even smaller portions. With the structure of each block and the content and size of each road, I was able to get a rough mental block of where I want my downtown, commercial areas, and residential areas. For the buildings, I like to start out with getting my essential services placed down. A lot of these assets are very distinct and interesting pieces, so it's nice to build around them. Also, it just ensures that I don't forget any services down the road or run into issues with finding space for these buildings. But pretty quickly here, I'm starting to get into some detail work. I really went all in on detailing for this one, with the idea for this town in my head was that this town is slowly being abandoned. Maybe at one point this town was a lot more bustling and was a center for commerce, but nowadays a lot of people are moving out to find work in the bigger cities in the region. A lot of the roads and city services are lacking funding and the land value has decreased, so I tried to showcase that by intentionally leaving open spaces in areas and then detailing those areas to look run down and unkept. Generally, in areas of high land value, you won't find any wasted land, but in areas like this, you'll find lots of abandoned lots and open fields seemingly in the middle of town. With that idea in place, making things look dirty and run down in City Skylines does require a good bit of detailing. To be honest, I was also just having a lot of fun with this build, so I may have gotten carried away in some areas. I've been having a lot of fun in the background recently, experimenting with mixing different surfaces and decals together, along with lowering trees into the ground to get more realistic foliage. It's pretty time consuming and I'm sure we'll get more streamlined ways to implement stuff like this in the future, but I really do like the results. In this first clip, I forgot to turn off the tree sway, so it looks a little crazy in the time lapse. After bridges and ports, all my mod settings got wiped, so as I go further in this video, I start dialing my settings back to where they were before the update. I'm also going to be making extensive use of surfaces for all our roads, sidewalks, and otherwise asphalt textures. I'm cutting a lot of that footage out though, because it doesn't always make for pretty camera angles, but as the video goes on, you'll notice more and more details on the roads and sidewalks. Let me know, would you guys like to see more footage of that kind of work, or do you just prefer I leave it out? The birch tree here is a pretty useful brush for making taller grass. You can use the small variations of the tree to make tight clumps of grass to fit in cracks like this, but then you can up the tree size and it makes larger tufts of grass. I like mixing it around a bit depending on what I'm doing, but my favorite general application is the number 3 tree size, lowered 7.5 meters into the ground. As I continue on here, you can see I'm starting to mix some residential here right in the back of these commercial plots. With a small town like this, and the scale that we're trying to build it at, it can be pretty fun and provide an interesting look to have mixed blocks like these, and it's definitely something you will see in real life at times. I really do enjoy making these back alleys as well. I feel like it provides so much realism and character to these commercial buildings. It gives a bit of breathing room between the buildings as well without having to spam trees or just have some weird open empty space in between the buildings. Like I've said in previous videos, detailing really does consist of filling up the space in between rather than always placing the right buildings at the right spots, just taking that time to give love and care to all the little corners of your city. For now though, I'm just going to leave you all with a bit of music as we continue to build, and I'll be back soon to talk about key moments. As you can see here, I'm starting to expand out into some of the single family homes here on this side of the town. I wanted to really showcase that idea of having abandoned lots in the area. There are only a few abandoned lots close to downtown, but as you get further away, things become more sparse. I'm using largely the same detailing techniques for these lots as the rest of the ground coverage, but I'm adding in some gravel surfaces to signify spots where houses used to be. I'm also mixing in a little bit of the sand surfaces to provide extra color, and using some of those darker mud surfaces to make things look even more varied. Part of my inspiration for these lots was from me looking at Detroit one day on Google Earth and noticing just how many abandoned lots there are right up next to downtown. It's pretty surprising how sparse you can get in locations. That's obviously one of the biggest examples for urban decay in the United States, however, so it's an obvious one to look at. I do like how these lots in the back here turned out. I do think I went a bit overboard on some of the foliage as I was just messing around and experimenting with it. I do go back later and delete a chunk of the foliage so it doesn't look as overgrown as how you'll see in these clips here. It's kind of a situation where it depends on how far away you're looking at it. So from a distance, a lot of this foliage doesn't look as dense as it does from up close, but then you zoom in and it kind of just starts looking a little bit wild. So we have to find that balance between things looking good up close and then also things looking good from a distance. And I think I strike that balance by the end of the video, but right now it might be a little bit too overgrown. With the influx of all the new residents, as well as the traffic changes to the bridges and ports DLC, I had to take a quick break from building to upgrade my road infrastructure. Off screen, I made this very simple on-ramp and off-ramp that connects up to this roundabout here, and I'm just testing to see if that does the job. I also didn't realize at this point in the video that the signature apartment complex I placed near the railroad tracks actually houses about 1,300 people, and I think at this point I had 2 of them, so we've got a lot more people moving in than I intended. I ended up removing one of those apartment complexes, as you can see here, but I don't mind the extra density that one of them brings, so I'm going to keep one. I'm going to have to do several changes to the road structure as we move along, however, just to make sure everything is flowing smoothly in and out of the area. Now that we're here at the end of the video, I just wanted to go in a little bit closer detail and show off some of the things that we've built in this episode. So we just got done with the farmlands, and I didn't show off all of the detailing for the farmlands. One of the things that we did here is we have these net lanes that I put over some of the roads. So some of these are going to be gravel roads, and then some of these I use the dirt road net lane, which I think looks a little bit better than what we have in the default vanilla game. I think it looks a little bit more detailed. Most of these farms, I would say like at least half of these farms are actual functional farms. So they're either vegetable or grain or cotton. And there's also a couple of livestock farms here too as well. Yeah. So we've got livestock, and livestock here. So we've got a good mixture of farms that are actually functioning. They're going to be providing goods to the city and providing jobs for people to work at. And then the rest of these farms are kind of just cosmetic. So I can have a little bit of variation in the colors of the plots. I was actually able to get this color though, even though this is a actual farm. One of the Gaga XM textures actually goes over the farm, and so it's got this nice green texture, which is I quite like actually. So maybe I need to mess around with that a little bit more and see if I can get more farms that are actual functioning. The only downside with those is that they kind of spam buildings everywhere, which looks a little bit unfortunate sometimes. Sometimes it actually turns out looking nice, and then sometimes there's just a little too many, like this farm here, where it's just looking a little bit busy. But otherwise, I went ahead and added a couple more road connections. So I've got a very simple connection that goes directly into the farmlands here. It's just a quick on-ramp and off-ramp. I didn't go crazy and make like a bridge that goes to the other side so I can have like super high throughput, but it's just something that can be used so we're not funneling all of the traffic through the town here. I also did a connection over to this highway here on this side. So we've got two highways running through the map at the moment. We've got this main highway here that runs all the way through our big city, and it kind of just goes around and meets up here. I also have one other connection that I kind of have reserved for whenever I build a city here. So it just kind of splits off here and connects up to this highway, which goes out through here. We also have this here that kind of serves our main city here. It serves Copperdale, and then it's going to serve maybe another town over here later in the future. But we've got a new highway here, which I placed, and essentially it just connects up through this main road, turns into a highway, and then goes all the way through here and to the end of the map. So if I want to place any buildings or anything out here, I kind of have a highway already made for that. And also it just kind of splits up the traffic a little bit. So we were having a lot of traffic coming in through this entrance here, and I wanted to split that up. So I made this here, and it's actually getting a lot of use. This one is also just kind of a simple one in a sense. I don't have any bridges, I don't have any tunnels or anything. It's just a simple roundabout with some connections, so you can get on this way, or you can go through the roundabout, get through here, or you can go through the roundabout, get through here, or you can just go directly onto the highway from this direction. So they should be able to go whatever direction they want on this highway, and it should work as long as we don't have too much traffic going through. We may have to redesign this if we have more people on this side of the map, but I do intend, at least for the moment, to keep this more rural in this area. So hopefully we won't have to redesign this one. For right now though, we've just got this footprint here for the town, and I'm not sure if I do want to expand it at all. I did add some random roads, which, you know, aren't maybe the best design ever, but I did add some random roads just to connect up through here, just in case maybe I want to expand this town later in the future. But right now, I think it's looking really, really nice. We've got what I was talking about here, where it gets really sparse towards the edge here, and then as it comes into the downtown here, you can see there's still some abandoned lots. So we've got one here, we've got one here, and here, and here. But it's still looking a lot more dense. And then we get into the sort of historic downtown main street here, which has got, I think this is from Tigon's pack as well, the agricultural rail yard, which looks really, really nice, and it fits perfectly into this town, especially it being a farming town. So I really like this asset. And then yeah, we've just got the historic downtown. We've got a supermarket, of course, because I feel like every small town has got to have some sort of big box store in it. So otherwise, we've just got, a couple apartments here. I put in just a couple of apartment blocks here and here, And then I also put in some Imperial Heights apartments here, which, as I was saying earlier in the episode, actually hosts 1,300 people. So I'm not sure how they fit 1,300 people in here, but it is a low density, high density, it's a low rent, high density apartment complex. So it does make sense, I guess, from a gameplay perspective for it to be that dense. But I just wasn't expecting there to be that many people in there whenever I placed it down. Anyways, other than that, though, we've just got a little bit more residential on this side here. Although this side is a little bit nicer. I was imagining that a lot of these people that live in these houses here are probably people that either own or manage these fields here. So they're going to have a little bit more money in this area of the town. It's going to be a little bit nicer than this area of the town. I'm not sure if that's 100% totally realistic, but that's just kind of the headcanon that I went with there. I did a couple of extra finishing touches to this highway here. So on this section was raised at one point, and what I did instead was I just raised up the land. So the land kind of comes up and meets the highway here, and then it kind of slopes down as we go on this off-ramp here. And then also I have another extra connection to get into this area. So even if they don't want to get off here, if they're going into the farmlands, they still can get off right here and then get into the farmlands through there. So we're not funneling all of our traffic into this main street. So that's just a couple of the adjustments that I had to make because this town was having some pretty bad traffic issues for a while, but everything seems pretty smooth now. It's actually looking quite sparse. It is 8 p.m. in game right now though, so it's not one of the rush hour periods. Maybe if it was rush hour, it might be a little bit more. But otherwise, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I love how it has this winding river going through it, and we have the rail going through and the farmlands all throughout. And whenever you just get a sort of a wide picture of it all, and you see the skyline of the downtown with the farmlands and the town in the background, it's all just looking really, really nice to me. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. We've got this here, which is a problem that we need to talk about. So the row assets aren't necessarily working right now. Technically they do work, but they make your load times extremely long. So I've disabled them for now, and I'm either going to have to wait for that pack to get patched at some point. It might be patched by now by the time I'm releasing this video, I'm not sure. Or I'm going to have to delete this and replace it with another building. So if you guys have any ideas for what I can place in this block instead, do let me know, and I will make sure to read your comment and try it out. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for this episode. So I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.